I knew my co-host loved Jason Bateman, but what about Jude Law had me surprised about her longtime fangirling?
And what about Jude Law's character irked Nutmeg a bit?
Red and Red Real Reviews breaks down the fine metrics of brotherly love on Netflix's Black Rabbit.
I knew within the first 5 minutes I was gonna hate it, but then it was so bad. Ugh.
Nobody wants this. Like
Literally nobody wants this.
internet's gonna get mad at me for this one. There's no fat elf, you know.
Duty, which I can't say without laughing. Duty, like I'm English.
John B and Sarah are, I mean, I don't want to sound like a loser for saying this, but they're adorable. I'll admit it. Welcome in, brand new and shiny, a new season of Red and Red Real Reviews. Temporada tres, as they say south of the border.
I've never heard that one. What does it mean?
Season three.
Ah,
I had to
nice.
be.
I can't believe it's
I
season
had to
three
be.
already.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes it feels like we just watched that Lincoln Lawyer first, second edition the other week.
Or like we just watched Lioness and we're talking smack about it, just
Yeah.
just yesterday.
Things that continue to live on through time.
Yes, yeah.
Um. So, and let us know what you think of this change to the podcast, or as the show as a whole, because we're changing the format, as you kind of may have guessed at the end of season two, before our little end of summer break. Uh, and if just to let us know what you think about that or anything else or shows that you may want us to cover, email us red and red real reviews at gmail.com, and please follow us on Instagram at red and red real reviews. That is the letter N and real spelled with two E's. So again, like we noted at the end of last season, we'll say it again just so everyone's ready. We're condensing the show down to a 30-minute format, and we're gonna get these shows out when the shows release. Our episodes out when those shows release, because all the studios like to promote everything at the front, and then they kind of forget about them as time goes along. So we want to get our content to you, the audience, in a little bit of a faster, crisper mode while the studios care. Damn that attention span of a gnat in today's society.
Yeah, sadly.
That being said, we kick off season three with a Netflix show, which they still have the tendency to drop the full season all at once, at least for the vast majority of circumstances.
Yeah, at least for limited series, it seems like they seem to do that. The shows like Stranger Things, they seem to drag out. They even dragged out Wednesday that came out recently. So they're starting to do that with the shows that are returning, but these limited series, they usually like to put out all in one pop, which I'm good with.
Yeah, on untested waters, as opposed to like you said, Stranger Things, which and Cobra Kai that we did in the past will have the
Yep.
returning audience back time after time. So this one, and I know we kind of differ on this strategy. I don't really like to look up much about the show first, so I don't have any biases going in. But Black Rabbit, so when I look at the name, the title of the show, I think it's going to be maybe something military, special ops, that sort of related. That's not quite at all what this was. It's kind of like a high stakes drama about a family business of sorts that the primary members kind of skirt financial and moral rules to achieve success and fame. So let's let the audience know immediately should they watch Black Rabbit.
Oh, yeah. They should absolutely watch it. No hesitation. It's totally worth watching, I think. And I didn't know much about it either. All I knew was Jude Law, Jason Bateman, their brothers. I maybe saw a trailer or part of a trailer, but still, like, you don't really know like what the name Black Rabbit means. Like, I had no idea what that
Yeah,
means. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really know too much going into it, but immediately hooked because I was like, these are two great actors, two of my favorite actors. This is going to be good.
And I certainly wouldn't have guessed that it was a restaurant and trendy bar in Lower East Side of Manhattan or wherever it was in New York.
I would not have either, but as people will realize if they do decide to start watching it, that opening scene, they see the black rabbits on the wall in the restaurant bathroom.
Hmm.
So
And,
that's how
and
you
I,
know early on.
and I don't know if they ever explained what the name behind Black Rabbit was. I don't
They
recall
really
that coming
didn't.
up.
They really didn't at all.
Yeah, like you see their little intro, you see all like kind of the artwork and stuff, but there's no real ties to why that's significant or anything.
Right. The intro was really cool. And in it, the staff refers to it as like rabbit sometimes
Hmm.
or black
Yeah,
rabbit, but they usually just say rabbit. Like that's just the terminology they use. But yeah, it's very symbolic, but they don't explain how it's symbolic really.
yeah. And for me, throughout the course of the series, there was a lot of intrigue, there was a lot of suspense. So I would agree and recommend it. And I think it could have probably been a little stricter, sticking to a 45-minute duration. I think they kind of maybe legged it out to an hour unnecessarily. Netflix being Netflix, obviously they're not adherent to broadcast standards and fitting into commercials. So, but I think they could have made them a little tighter. But other than that, Jude Law and Jason Bateman, I thought were both very, very good in this. And the acting from a lot of the side characters was well done also, and all those like little flashbacks that they kind of made a habit of at the top of every episode. I thought those did a lot to kind of connect the dots and
Yeah.
tie certain side characters arcs back to the main characters.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It could have been tighter. There were most of the episodes were like 55 minutes, just over an hour long. And the way I see it, not that it was slow or that I was bored, but it just kind of seemed like there was a lot packed into each hour long episode. So sometimes I would look to see how much time was left in the episode. And I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow, there's like 20 minutes left still. I'm thinking that it's going to cut to black and then it's going to go, do you want to watch the next episode in like 5 minutes? And it was 20 minutes away. So, yeah, I mean, I do think it could have been a little tighter. It could have been like, why don't we cut out this one little scene or two little scenes that just didn't really make too much of a difference and we could just make it a little tighter. So, I would definitely agree with that. But I did like the general vibe of the show and the music and the kind of the dark gritty vibe, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes place in New York City, so it's a bit urban. You have like the whole restaurant world in that world, and they played some songs that I actually knew, and one of them was the kind of a crossover here with Mobland because they played the Mobland theme song in like episode 7 or 8 later on. And yeah, it was just kind of that cool music, cool vibe. I don't really know what I would compare this show to. I don't know about you. I would compare it to a show you haven't seen, which is Ozark, and not necessarily in the subject matter, but because of like the style that it's done, that kind of like dark, gritty style. And then there is an Ozark connection besides Jason Bateman, because Laura Linney directed 2 episodes, episodes 3 and 4, and she played Jason Bateman's wife in Ozark.
I caught her name a couple times
Yep.
when it went to credit roll. And I recognized her name. I know who Laura Linney is. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know she was in the directorial shoes as well.
I think this was her debut, actually. I heard that Jason Bateman convinced her to do it.
Come on, come on.
Which I don't think he directed any. I could be wrong, but I think he was primarily acting in this. I don't know that he might have been a producer, but I don't think that he directed any.
And I like the dark vibes as well. I kind of like when shows do a little bit more of that because it gives you the sense of you question whether it's going to have a happy ending. So it kind of keeps you a little bit more engaged because you're not just assuming that everything's going to work out at the end.
Yeah, it's sort of realistic in a way. Like it is that very, I guess gritty is the word I keep saying. It's just sort of not everything is pretty in that world. It's New York City, it's just it's not all like rainbows and butterflies and dreams coming true. It's kind of like this is the day-to-day shit that everybody deals with.
Yeah, almost like a more urban. Uh, Now, which one we may be up for debate, but almost like a more urban version of the Taylor Sheridan series, like a more urban
Huh.
landman, like a more urban landman, or a more urban Tulsa King, something like that.
I did hear some people describing it as uncut gems or similar to that, which I didn't see that movie, so I can't
With
really
Adam
make that
Sandler.
comparison.
With Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
Yeah, I still gotta watch that.
so do I. Yeah, and I'm years behind on that one.
So, um, another thing we're gonna make a consistent habit of in the new season is each of us telling you one thing to watch for in a series from each of our own perspectives. Normally, when we're just covering the premiere or premiere episode or premiere episodes, it'll obviously be something to look forward to or something we think might happen. When we get the whole series, we'll kind of make this more of an all-encompassing note that we're pulling out of the show. So, since I'm starting off this episode, Binge the Ginge gets to give you her one thing to watch first.
All right. So this one might be obvious, but hear me out. So the reason I'm going to tell people to watch is literally for Jude Law and Jason Bateman. And again, they happen to be two of my faves. I know that I might say that a lot. I've said that about Colin Farrell, whatever. These are legitimately two of my faves. And I've loved these two for a very long time separately, independent of each other. So, yes, if you are a woman like me who loves these guys, of course you want to watch. But also, if you're a heterosexual dude who just admires their acting, you can admit they're good looking guys. You definitely want to watch too. And I think what you want to watch for is their relationship, which I didn't feel initially. I was trying to see if I could pick out like why these guys were cast as brothers. And I don't know if casting is super spot on there. I don't know that they look alike. That I don't know if they look like they could be brothers. We have Jason Bateman looking kind of homeless. He's got that long
Yeah,
hair, the shaggy beard, and he's like strangely fit too. He's always running. But it was weird to see him playing like a total screw up when he's usually the kind of like straight man guy who like has his shit together in most of the roles he plays. And then it was interesting seeing Jude Law playing a New Yorker and having that American accent because in 95% of roles he has, he's always playing a native Brit. So that was interesting seeing that. But I just think as the eight episode series goes on, you do start legitimately feeling like they're brothers. And that definitely comes through with their acting, especially towards the end, which is like the peak of their acting and their relationship as brothers and how they support each other and the issues that they have, butting heads as brothers and just being totally different people at the heart of it. So, yeah, I would just say watch for these two guys. That's it.
I knew you always had the big fangirl crush on Jason Bateman. I did not know about the Jude Law crush too.
Oh, that's been since The Holiday. That movie, do you
Oh
know The
God,
Holiday?
that movie's old as dirt.
I know it came out in 2006, but I was going through my first really bad breakup and I went to see that movie twice in the movie theater. Do you know that's the only movie I've ever seen twice in the movie theater?
Wow,
Literally the only movie.
that's insane. This movie I've seen in the movie theater twice as many times as that.
Yeah, I never see things twice. And like I really don't watch movies twice at home either. And I don't watch them more than once just because there's so many to enjoy that it's just too much. But I know a lot of people, my husband included, who just watch things like it's comfortable to them. That he's rewatched Two and a Half Men a million times. He's rewatched Married with Children. All these different series. It's like a comfort thing.
Well, movies wise, I get that because there are like certain movies that they're on, and I will stop to scroll. I will stop surf if I don't have like any intention of watching something. I will stop and watch the movie every time, like Jaws, Jurassic Park, Independence Day. Um, Not so much the Star Wars movies because I can go down a rabbit hole. But like movies like those types of movies, like I will stop every time if they're on TV and watch them. So there is it's comfort zone or maybe even like a guilty pleasure sort of thing. You kind of pauses everything, and it's weird that it pauses everything because you've seen it a dozen times. It's weird that a movie like that would stop your life.
It would have been like that with cable back in the day, like even 10 years ago, if old school, for me, it was comedies or She's the Man with Amanda Bynes, all these
Oh
little
God,
like teeny bopper kind of comedies, or anything with Will Ferrell in it, anything with certain people in it, comedies, Mean Girls, these are the stuff that if they were airing on TBS or TNT or something, you would stop and watch them. You're like, I can recite this movie. But it's not like that anymore. Cable's dying.
was she's the man, the one that she played the soccer player? She's
Yeah.
trying to be a soccer player. Okay.
Yeah. One of the best Amanda Bynes movies, hands down. Literally so quotable. You have to see it if you have not already. I urge everyone to see it.
And probably not invoking your hatred for the pixie cut.
Well, I mean, she plays a boy, but to be fair, it's a riff off of Shakespeare. What's the Twelfth Night? No, what's the name of the Shakespeare? Midsummer Nights? I can't.
Midsummer Night's
I
Dream.
I forget which Shakespeare
Total.
thing it's based on, but yeah, it's loosely based on Shakespeare.
I was very good at reading Shakespearean parts, but not so good at remembering the grandiose library of Shakespeare.
Oh geez, Shakespeare was a whole thing in middle school and high school. I
Oh
I
yes, it
still
was.
remember
Yes, it was.
I still remember a passage or a thing I had to recite for eighth grade. I'm not going to recite it here, but I still remember it because it was an assignment. We had to stand up in front of the class and memorize it. It was nerve wracking.
EPD. Maybe that'll be a social media reel in the future. Rack your brain.
Oh geez. But anyway, I just thought it was funny that you said down the rabbit hole because we are
Yeah,
talking about Black Rabbit. So I was
yeah.
almost going to interject and say, no pun intended.
And I thought it was funny that you said Jason Bateman, his character, despite looking homeless, was out there fit and running all the time. And that made me think of a couple times when people call him Forrest Gump, or so it's like, hey, where's Lieutenant Dan, or something like that. And it took me a second because I looked at his character and I'm thinking, well, he looks more like Lieutenant Dan when Forrest Gump finds him and he's all disheveled and everything.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of when he's running across America and Forrest lets it go.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I remember that part. He looked pretty rough, I'll tell you that.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So my one thing is I'm gonna be a little critical here, and I'm gonna, I guess, kind of be in a little bit of the same vein as your thing, but be a little more, but be a bit focused. Is because Jude Law's character Jake, I found him not to be a pushover in the sense that he was wimpy. I didn't think I thought his character was still pretty alpha and masculine, but a pushover in the sense of he doesn't have a very core set of principles that he follows. He obviously skirts around a lot of financial rules and regulatory rules with the bar. Um, and I mean, I kind of have to judge my own opinion of this with a grain of salt because those qualities of Jake may be degraded due to the fact that he is always his brother's keeper.
Yeah,
So like his principles, he may have been someone that had a good moral integrity, but
yeah.
always having to clean up for Vince. It's kind of
Hmm.
like just rotted that sense of Jake to its core.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with that because oddly enough, I see the character of Jake, who is played by Jude Law, obviously. He's supposed to be the older brother, and he kind of plays
Uh,
the typical role that Jason Bateman might play, right? Like
I
what came to mind to me was Arrested Development. Like in Arrested Development, Jason Bateman or Michael Bluth, he's kind of the guy that has to hold the family together, and Jake is the one who has to hold everything together in this. And obviously, he means well. I think he has some sort of moral compass, but he's got some flaws too, where it looks like from the outside that he has it together, but inside he's a majorly conflicted guy with a pretty messy life. And I think he wants to do the right thing, but his wanting to protect people and, like you said, to be Vince's keeper, that kind of overrules his ability to do the right thing. So he kind of ends up, fudging it and having to do things that are not so by the book.
and that also maybe that also could be due to the fact that he has to act as the older brother even though he's not the older brother.
I thought he was the older brother.
No, Vince is.
I
I
don't know
think
why
Vince
I
is the
thought
older
that.
brother because remember we don't want to give up any um, spoilers,
Yeah.
but the big reveal with their history, the history between them and their parents. Jake was the little kid tucked away in bed still, and Vince woke up in the middle of the night, and events ensued as they did.
Okay. I thought like when they had flashbacks, they had the blonde kid who was Jake. I thought he was like taller. So I just assumed he was older,
And
maybe.
there was also a scene where Vince specifically calls out Jake's age as 50, and when they have the bolo out on the radio, they described Vince as 52.
Ah, okay. So they're close in age, but
Yeah.
that's actually younger than they both are in real life, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
They're shaving off a couple years. I'm pretty sure Jason Bateman's like 55, mid 50s or
yeah.
something.
Well, 3 years isn't that bad of a difference.
Yeah, they just shaved off a couple years. But yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
I
kind of what
think
I was thinking from like maybe having a wear too much of a weight on his shoulders from because Vince is the older brother and such a screw up.
yeah, that could be it too. Just getting that impression. Sometimes you see parental relationships where it seems like the child is more of the parent because they're having to like clean up the parents' messes, and like that's
Hmm.
not a traditional relationship. So that could be the case. Is because it's even though it's a certain birth order, and like I don't know if you or anyone else has read about birth order stuff, but there's characteristics of people who are in a certain birth order. There's certain characteristics of a single child like you. I mean, so yeah, it's kind of like it goes against birth order with the younger one having to pick up the pieces and hold things together. And as a result of that, he kind of over time his moral compass is a little bit more willing to give in certain circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that does tend to play out with other thing with his other relationships too because there was one very minimal aspect with Wes early on where they're all owners of this bar, so Wes kind of gets a tab running and Jake's trying to lay down the law. Hey, you want to sally this up? I know we're owners, but do something like, wait, this is my money. What's the deal here? And then there, also when they have that big charity event, charity event. If you know, you know. If you watch the show, um, and he's was pressing Vince and Wes to keep Jules out for obvious reasons. If you watch it like this, Jules has a bit of a shady aspect to him in his own right. So, and they kind of blow off Jake and bring and invite Jules anyway. So there were elements of that where Jake's trying to put his foot down, and they don't really respect what he's trying to accomplish there.
And we should explain to our listeners and viewers too that Wes is an investor in
Mhm.
the Black Rabbit restaurant. Jules is an investor or a staff member.
I think Jules
I never
was.
really understood that, to be
n-
honest.
I mean, I feel like maybe at one point Jules was an initial investor, but I don't think he has an ownership stake in it. So I think a lot of what Jules is bankrolling a lot of Wes's business ventures. Because
Okay.
I think early on there was one conversation where Wes was speaking to Estelle, his girlfriend, about um like things he had high aspirations for. Wes was all amped up about, and he kept saying Jules this, Jules that. So I think Jules was also a bankroller of sorts
Okay.
because
So
of
he
the
has a
money
hand
he
in
made in his
things.
life to help, to kind of fund Wes's ventures.
Yeah, and Wes is a musician or performer who invested in this restaurant.
Yeah, and this I noticed, and I'm gonna try to say this as carefully as I can without spoiling the ending. But I also think the way this ended had a very full circle
Mm,
um, absolving
yeah.
of Jake's of the weight that is on Jake's soul and body.
Yeah, and I think I mean that goes back to the question of should people watch it? And I think yeah, I mean it does come full circle where you're not going to be feeling like you're wanting more or that you're disappointed by the ending. Like it feels like everything is tied up.
I would agree. And if you feel like we've tied this episode up nicely and neatly with a little bow, please drop us a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button if you choose to watch us on YouTube and Rumble. Next up, Dwight is back, and there was a bit of a cliffhanger that could endanger the gang down in Tulsa. But the Bread to Buck crew is back, and we're going to break down what's the latest going on in their lives in season 3 of Tulsa King on Paramount Plus. Until the next real review, Red and Red are signing out.